meeting of STOP, which is a new civic organization that formed over the summer. And we organized this group because those of us who are on the steering committee, we just kept getting questions from our friends and neighbors saying, how could the city have approved the view? What's going on? And unfortunately, the answer to that question is that it did not happen by accident. It's basically baked into our zoning code. And some of those problems are specific details, like requirements that you build right up to the edge of the sidewalk. Other aspects have to do with the process of approval. The view was approved by administrative approval, which is a process that has no public element at all. So that means that city staff approved the view. There were no public hearings, no review by the planning board, no vote by our elected commissioners. And by the way, I'd like to thank, I believe there are at least 2 of our city commissioners here this evening. And also Fred Atkins, who's running for office. In conjunction with our zoning code, administrative review is what gave us the view. And if you look around the city at some of the other buildings we have, you can see similar problems, very narrow sidewalks. But it's really thrown into relief with the view because the view is such a huge project that the problems are really evident. So tonight we're going to talk to you about how we got here to this point, and we're also going to talk about how we can get our ship of state, our city, moving in a better direction. And I want to emphasize that our goal is genuine quality progress. We are not a no-growth group, but what we want is to figure out how the city can grow and still allow us to retain our quality of life, which is what brought us here. Now, nothing is going to guarantee that, but we have some very specific code changes that we think will significantly improve our odds of getting that better, higher quality city. I'd like to introduce our speakers.
What's your name?
I was getting there, that's the last one, others first. Mike Lachey, a 28-year resident of Sarasota and a longtime bicycle advocate. Eileen Normile, former Sarasota City Commissioner and attorney. And Jennifer Ahern Koch, a former Sarasota Planning Board member and public relations and marketing consultant. And I am Kate Lowman. I've been active with CCNA, the Coalition of City Neighborhood Associations, and also with issues affecting my own neighborhood, Laurel Park, which is a downtown neighborhood. So all of us are on the 10-member STOP steering committee. There's also a 32-member STOP advisory board. Now, Mike, Eileen, and Jen are going to talk to you about the specific areas of the zoning code that we've targeted for change. And we will have a question and answer segment after that. But first, I'm going to start with the history of how we got here. 1 second here. So in 2003, the city adopted a new zoning code for the downtown. And I'm sure that many of you are going to remember Andres Dwani when he was here, and there were many, many meetings and discussions about the kind of downtown city we wanted. And the goal was that it was supposed to be new urbanist, walkable, and pedestrian friendly. And that has been the city's mantra ever since then, that is their goal. Now, when the city adopted that plan for the downtown, Argus and a group of developers threatened to sue the city. There were private negotiations between the city and those entities, and a settlement was reached. The suit was dropped, and the city agreed to make a certain number of changes to the new code. One of them was administrative approval. Now that's the process that allows staff approval for even the biggest projects. When this was done 13 years ago, most citizens really had no idea that their ability to participate in decisions about the direction of new development was being given away. People did not understand that. And today, frankly, most citizens still don't know that, and when they learn it, many of them are really astonished. So when you have administrative approval, which is what we have for our downtown, not for the whole city, just the downtown, a proposed project is guaranteed approval by city staff as long as it meets the zoning code. And it doesn't matter how big, incompatible, or intense the project may be, there's no public process that's part of that. So the city commission, the planning board, and the public are not part of the decision making. So your elected city commissioners never voted on the view. That's just, it's not how it works. And the assumption behind all of this was that with a really good code, code that embodies all of your goals, that you provide certainty for everyone. You provide certainty for the developer, you provide certainty for the public, you can do away with time-consuming public hearings. But I think that all of us, when we look at the view, we're pretty sure that the public is not getting certainty out of this process. I think the reality is that no zoning code, no matter how good it is, no zoning code can be perfect. And furthermore, not all of the issues in the zoning code are totally clear-cut. The staff doesn't just apply the code. They actually have to also interpret the code, and they can make exceptions to the code, and they have to do that. They wouldn't be able to do their jobs if they couldn't do those things. But with administrative approval in place, all of that decision-making is going on behind the scenes. The public is never part of it. And one of the problems with that, well, there are many problems. One, it doesn't address citizens' concerns about the project. It doesn't take advantage of citizens' knowledge. I mean, people who live in a certain area usually know a whole lot, like about what traffic patterns are, what the issues are going to be. You never have public hearings, no one gets a chance to say any of those things. So there's no backup plan to deal with those quality of life issues. Now 13 years ago, when the Dwani plan was adopted, it was held out as the perfect solution for downtown. Now we hear the same things being said about the city's new form-based code that's going to start being rolled out this winter. And so we're being told, well, this is going to solve all our problems. This is going to correct things. But the truth is that no code can be applied without any public input, especially in a situation like Sarasota, where it's a built-out city, so everything that's built is infill. And when you build this new thing, you're having to, take into consideration all of the other buildings that are already there and the people who live there and who work there. So our current code can be improved, but we don't think that any code can be perfect. We need public process. By the time, with administrative approval, by the time citizens know that a project has been approved, it's pretty much too late. Theoretically, a citizen can appeal a staff site plan approval, but it is very, very difficult to do. So at this point, we've had 13 years to live with the downtown code, to live with administrative approval. Numerous new buildings have gone up, and I think we can see, what the new code is yielding, the old new code. And so how has this 13-year experiment worked for Sarasota? I think if you look at the view, you can conclude that the experiment has failed. Making the problem worse, the city conducts traffic studies which do not capture the actual traffic impact of new projects, and a citywide expansion of administrative approval is being proposed to push it outside of the downtown and into all the neighborhoods. And this is not a good situation. So STOP proposes code changes to help fix these problems. We have 4 very specific code changes that we're pursuing. 1 will require wide sidewalks with room for trees and green space. And Mike Lachey will talk to you in greater detail about that. 2, we want to require realistic traffic studies so that the city actually knows what's going on. 3, we want to reintroduce the public into downtown development approvals. And 4, prevent the expansion of administrative approval into the neighborhoods. And so the last thing I want to say before I turn this over to Mike is that if you wondered why we call ourselves STOP, a number of people have said, you know, why can't you call yourself motherhood and apple pie, something positive? But the answer is that we believe it's time to stop the 13-year experiment with our downtown code. Time to stop planning an expansion of administrative approval into the neighborhoods, to stop creating narrow, unpleasant sidewalks. It's time for the city to stop business as usual, to look around and listen to its citizens so that we can all move forward in a more positive direction. So I thank you for coming tonight, and Mike Lachey is going to talk to you about sidewalks.